You are listening to the SDSU Football Podcast, presented by the East Village Times, with your hosts Andre Hagverdian and Paul Garrison. Welcome, listeners, to another episode of the SDSU Football Podcast. I'm your host, Andre Hagverdian. We'll be joined shortly by my co-host, Paul Garrison. Today's episode includes two interviews with recent commits to San Diego State football for the class of 2023. Both are preferred walk-ons. One from the junior college ranks from San Diego Mesa, Jaliel Jackson, who's a defensive lineman. And the other is Leo Kemp from Paso Robles High School, a fullback. The fullback position is back. And Leo, as you will hear, is someone that the coaching staff, singled out as someone that they wanted to come in specifically for that role. So both interviews were a great chance to get to know two more new Aztecs as they head to campus during the summer and participate in football activities heading into fall camp. So let's get to it. First up is Jaliel. We want to welcome Jaliel Jackson to the SDSU Football Podcast. How are you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing great, man. How are you guys?
We're doing great.
Man, thank you.
We appreciate you taking the time. So you committed to San Diego State recently after playing at San Diego Mesa College. Can you describe your football journey so far to date?
It's crazy, super crazy. I actually started playing baseball in Hawaii my freshman year. COVID hit, so it's almost like a free pass. Everybody got that year back. Came back. All the junior colleges out of high school recruited me, but that's when they took SAT scores and stuff like that into account. They don't do that anymore because of COVID. I hit up my Coach Watkins at Mesa and basically told him I just needed an opportunity to showcase my talent and hopefully get something out of it. And luckily I did, but I've been playing football my entire life since before I can talk for the most part. My dad played at Fresno State, so I pretty much grew up on this regimen that I'm about to walk into. Played all 4 years at San Diego High School downtown, so I grew up here. Played Pee Wee football at Balboa, Otay Ranch, Scripps Ranch. So, yeah, it's crazy how it all led right up the street, So, state football championship out of high school, CIF champion. So it's really cool being back on the football field for good now.
I didn't understand. What was the baseball thing? What did you mean by that?
Oh, I got a baseball scholarship out of high school. I played football, baseball, and basketball my entire life. And I ended up choosing baseball over football initially in high school. And I played at Hawaii Pacific University just for a semester, and we never played.
So baseball, scholarship, Hawaii, COVID, you come back. So what were you thinking about still giving baseball a try? What shifted you to football?
It was kind of the direction my body was going into, my baseball coach. Because once I came back, I started training with Southwestern City, just trying to see where I was going to play baseball wise. Junior college baseball got canceled just in California, 2020 and 2021. Right. So I really haven't played a college sport until last year, 2022. That was my first college season officially. But over quarantine, at least when my dad told me, he was like you're athletic enough to do any of the sports, but your body's choosing football. I went from 2019 being 235, lifting, training, running, and my body started to fill out. And I got up to 270, over that year and a half. So I talked to Coach James, my high school football coach, and he was like, look, man, you can do baseball, but you're looking like a football guy. This is the size they wanted you out of high school. And I was like, okay, we'll see about this. I'll put the cleats on. And I went down and trained with him. And he was like, yeah, you need to switch it up. So he was the first person that put it in my mind. But it's never been an issue for me to switch sports and things like that. Of course, you got to get the rust off the first week or two. But I just got right back into it, and it felt like I was at home. So happy with that decision.
Did you play defensive line in high school as well?
Yeah, I actually switched. I played tight end, defensive end, defensive tackle, nose, like that D line in high school. Yeah.
Where did you play baseball? I mean, like, what position did you play baseball?
Outfield, first and third. I pitched if we didn't have anybody, but it was either a strike, a really hard strike, or you might have gotten hit. So I don't really throw a pitcher in there unless somebody like really. But yeah, it was cool getting recruited and that whole experience, scouts coming to the game and things like that. I actually didn't want to play baseball my senior year because our team was terrible. My mom was like, "You have too much talent. You don't know if this is going to be your last. So go out there and do it." And I ended up ranked. My senior batting average was 545. I had schools and all that coming, scouts with like the little guns seeing me from the outfield. So blessed for sure.
You said your dad played football at Fresno State. What was his name and what did he play?
Shondell Jackson. He went to La Jolla High School out here. He was the top. He was ranked at his position. Played offensive line and defensive line. So all the visits he would, and San Diego State was in his top 3 schools. He got a Division I offer from every school in the U.S. And he told me that in high school. I asked him, I think it was my junior year. I didn't have any offers, no attention. I was like, how did you, like, I don't understand because I think I'm more athletic and everything than him, but that's something I can talk to him about.
What would he say? What would he say?
Oh, no shot. Like, here, we go about it. He comes down here. Like, when we went on my visits to state, we go to Buffalo Wild Wings, and you would see us doing, like just work hand movements on each other. He's being O-line, I'm being D-line, just acting complete fools.
At Buffalo Wild Wings.
Yeah. Right here in Mission Valley, I think I have him beat. You ask anybody else in the family, I got it. But yeah, the San Diego State coach at that point in time, it was in like 95. I don't remember who it was, but he would come knock on his door, like, what are you eating for dinner? This and that. So it's full circle moment for both of us. But yeah, he played that. And I asked him, like, how'd you get there? And he dumped all of his letters on me at like 5 a.m. And I was just like, gosh, man, I have some work to do because I didn't have that, but it was super motivating. But yeah, that's what he played there at Fresno. So I'm looking forward to that game. I want to say on the 25th, just a little bit of get back on November 25th at Snapdragon. So yeah, that should be fun.
You're coming to San Diego State as a preferred walk-on.
Yeah.
You talked about your journey. I'm sure you had people telling you that, this football wasn't going to work for you.
Mm-hmm.
You said you played 1 year at Mesa. Why is it important for you to keep working towards that dream?
That's a great question. I actually just talked to my parents about it because since my journey is so wild, not a lot of people liked the idea of me going to San Diego State as a preferred walk-on. Like, oh, like, just wait, come back in, like, just wait for something. But one thing that I've learned, like, with my journey is everything happens for a reason. It's either a blessing or a lesson. And I think that this was by far a blessing with Coach Bojay, under Coach Maddox, very sound defense. They have a plan for me. And sometimes people see a preferred walk-on as a, like, almost like in like a disrespect, like, oh, like I this and that. I see it as, okay, right? I played this many games at Mesa, just a year, right? And that's switching off with other guys. I see it as a challenge. People all the time, you see it via social media and stuff like that. People prefer walking in the opportunity to show that you deserve that scholarship, right? I have no kind of like, oh, that's disrespectful, this and that. Like, okay, you guys want to give me a chance? You're not going to regret it. You know what I mean? So everything is a dream until it's like made reality. Going to San Diego State was that, especially out of high school, because there's that like, oh, like they don't recruit guys from like all that noise. But with that being said, I know a lot of guys on the team from San Diego. I played with Keenan Christian, I think his name is, the running back. Mm-hmm. We were all-stars together in AYF and youth football. Noah Tumblin, the corner, me and him would go at it on the football field, turn around and then go at it on the basketball court. So I know a lot of these guys, but all those opportunities were earned. So I'm looking forward to earning mine too. I plan on finishing my college career here. I think it's a great platform for me to get to that next level. So yeah, I mean, just it's still not real, until I'm out there in pads and stuff like that. But they have a plan for me. And with my work ethic, I think it's going to work out fine. And this PWO thing is only a temporary thing. So I'm not worried about any of that.
Now, for those people who haven't seen your game, man, how would you describe it?
I want to say it's because some people are like, oh, Like, are you more of a quick, more of a power? I want to say I'm both. At Mesa, I had to play defensive end, defensive tackle, like the three technique, also nose, right? 6'3", 285, pretty lean guy. Obviously, these are like the best of the best, but like that's who you have to compare yourself to and hold that standard. Aaron Donald on the inside, not the biggest guy, but if you see him, he's a force to be reckoned with. Same thing with like Khalil Mack off the edge, Aiden Hutchinson. All these guys are guys that I like to study. Just watching them, I want to say it was like I forgot what the last game was. I was watching Aiden Hutchinson his last game. I think they were out of the playoffs, but they were playing against, I don't remember who.
The Packers.
Yeah, and he just went insane. He went ballistic, sack after sack after sack. And especially at that level, it's incredible. So those are a couple of the people I like to craft my game off of because I can drop back into coverage. I'm quick enough to like cover the slants and things like that, but I can also hold my ground on the inside when I'm playing nose and things like that. So my versatility definitely helps my case as far as all that stuff goes. So versatile, I guess, would be like the one word I would. I just like being on the field, so I've always been brought up to be able to do everything. So I think me being able to come in and do that. Some guys are just in, strictly in. Some people are in, can't drop back. Some people are inside, can't move in the three technique. I like to craft my game so I can do whatever, give me the most playing time. So yeah.
On some of your posts on social media, it showed you working out at SDSU, and you already were talking about the roots of like the SDSU. I beg your pardon, the San Diego football community, things like that. But you're working out at San Diego State before you make your commitment. I mean,
Yeah.
what does the university mean to the greater SD football community?
It's actually crazy you brought that up. I was training yesterday at the same field, and like that's their practice field. It's open to the community as long as nobody's on it. And I was out there, I want to say like 2, 3 o'clock, kind of hot. The baseball team just got done playing, I forgot who, but there was a softball game earlier than the baseball game. And some of my old teammates actually play there, like Charlie Reed and stuff like that. So I played with some of those guys. Families were leaving the game, and they were stopping and like clapping and like all this kind of, it sounds corny, like a movie, this and that. But a guy came up to me, can tell he was drinking a couple of beers, this and that, holding his daughter. But he came out and shook my hand and was like, hey, like, I don't think you know how much this means to us in this community, but you're out here working by yourself at 4 o'clock on a Sunday. Like, there is stuff going on, and it's super big. I wear like the Aztec with across my chest with a lot of pride, being from here. Snapdragon's brand new, and anytime like I got done shaking his hand and stuff like that, told him like it's gonna be a party at Snapdragon this season. At all costs, party in the backfield, all those good things. But the community wants something to grab onto. We don't have an NFL football team anymore or anything like that. So I'm looking forward to working with these guys and bringing back. I want to say like 2 years ago, they had like a crazy season. Like they lost like 1 or 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
I think with that and possibly like moving conferences, I think the community and everybody deserves something big. And I think they're on a great path. They were last season. And I think with the addition of me and a couple other guys, San Diego has something to look forward to for sure. And that's something that I hold personally, being from San Diego, family, friends, and just talking to fans when I'm around wearing like, oh, do you play there? And I'm just like, yes, make sure you get your tickets, season tickets, it's going to be fun. So yeah, super big for the community, and I'm glad to be a part of it for sure.
Obviously you committed to San Diego State, but what other schools were kind of in your final list that you were choosing between?
Yeah, so that's even crazy in itself because when I went to Mesa, I really didn't start playing until halfway through the season because I had 2 people ahead of me, and like the whole junior college process is like something of its own, but you have to be mentally strong and prepared like to go into it. I didn't really start talking to schools until after our bowl game. We played Fullerton College halfway through the season, and they had this 6'8" like freak of nature defensive end. Offensive tackle, my fault. And he just committed to Oregon that day, but other schools are still trying to like get him. So Cal was there, Washington State. And I took that personally, right? So I was like, okay, you just signed with Oregon. And that's the game I basically put myself on the map. I had like a sack or two that game, like a couple of tackles, but all on him. So Washington State and schools like that started following me after. But I then people started coming back from like injury and sickness. And then by the end of the season, our bowl game, I started. So I really only played like 6 games out of 12, something like that. So University of San Diego was the first school to like offer me, like give me an opportunity. And I was pretty locked in with them for the most part because all the other schools I was talking to, just conversation, like they didn't see enough of me. They wanted me to go back, but with all of like my transferring and the transfer portal rules and all that, we didn't know how much time I had left. So there was just a lot of question marks around me. So none of them really wanted to like bite, you know what I'm saying? Like always switching from baseball, this and that. So the other schools I was talking to or like got attention from was like Washington State. But I want to say their coach that was talking to me then switched to like Arizona State. All kinds of just crazy stuff was going on. The coaches I was talking to, a lot of the coaches I was talking to, they ended up like switching colleges and stuff like that and leaving me in the dark. So for me, it was just like D2s and D3s. Appreciate all those opportunities, but respectfully, I was okay, you know. So there are a lot of guys who need that platform, but it was kind of betting on myself. And then San Diego State and some other schools last minute started talking to me. But as soon as I saw San Diego State and they invited me on a visit, it was pretty much locked in at that point. So they gave me that opportunity. And when I talked to Coach Sumler, I told him that I was like, if you guys do give me that, I'm locked in. You don't have to worry about any. If a school were to offer me right now on a 4, no, I'm okay. Like they gave me that, they took their chance on me, so I'm gonna do the same thing for them. So yeah, we're locked in at State.
Nice. You know, we had a chance to talk to one of your Mesa teammates, Ezra Christensen,
Yeah,
a couple months ago when he was deciding where to go. He obviously didn't decide on San Diego State. He went to Fresno State.
yeah.
But we got a good feel or about, you know, what's going on Mesa. For those that may not follow them, you know, what kind of football is being played at Mesa College?
Competitive for sure. Very competitive up front. I love those guys to death. They gave me the best opportunity to put myself out there. Anybody who is from San Diego, outside of San Diego, and they ask me like, what is the best? I would by far say go there. They're not really convinced about like the bounce back route and things like that. Like, of course, like they'll give them an opportunity too, but everything has to be earned. And that's one thing I had to learn going there, playing because Ezra was one of the returners I had to play behind. And he had a ridiculous year too. But they also understood him and understood how to play him in certain situations, which is why you saw those crazy sacks and crazy this and that. There was a plan of me possibly going back because towards the end of the season, once I did start, they were like, oh gosh, like why didn't we? And it's like I didn't get the opportunity to completely show all of myself until the end. But like we both understood that, and it's one of those things we could just laugh about. But they're up to crazy things right now. Their guys still getting offers. They're up to like 150 something offers just this year. Ezra went there to Fresno, obviously, and we talked. So we're looking forward to playing them again, just showing him where he should have been, right? But Ezra committed there. Our quarterback went to Buffalo. Antoine Sullivan, another guy, a wide receiver, he committed to Fresno State as well. Yeah. So they're getting guys out, and that's what junior college is all about. They might not have the most orthodox coaching style, most traditional, but there's a method to their madness, as you can see. If there wasn't, none of us would be doing what we're doing right now. But yeah, I love them for sure.
You know, one of the things that we've talked to a lot of defensive line who are going to be coming up this year for State, and you know they talk about how great Coach Boj is. You've already mentioned him, Coach Maddox. But one thing is unique about State is their head coach spends a lot of time working with the defensive line. I think we had Jesse Matthews on here, another San Diego guy, and he called the defensive linemen. They say they joke around that they're Coach Hoke's sons on the team, and so I mean. Is there a layer of excitement just that you get to have that expertise as well to work under?
Beyond, completely. My first interaction with Coach Hoax, we were walking through the hallway, and he like bumped into me. He was like, "Oh, you didn't move." And I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "Man, I'll do a lot to look like you, my man." He was like, "You're looking good, this and that. Who are you?" Like he's like a comedian, but he's like real like lighthearted. Like he separates that like football and like just general like life, you know what I'm saying? So he was on his way to like a meeting, I want to say. But he was like, man, you're gonna end up here. I just want to let you know that. And I was like, I like that confidence. Like, we'll see about that. And like halfway through the practice, somebody messed up and he was like, Jaliel, get out here. And I was like me? Like I was just by myself on the sideline. He was like, put his pads on, get in right now. And I was like, oh, like, I can't do that. And I backpedaled to the sideline. But it's super crazy because I did my research on him and he was Julius Peppers. I went home and I was like, what's the big hype? Like, what's going on here? Saw that. I was like, oh yeah, any opportunity, I'm going. Like, you saw what he did in the NFL. I grew up watching him. I was super big on like that era of football, like the early 2000s. I play that way. That's just more what I grew up off of. And it's extremely unique. A lot of the head coaches are like offense based or like offensive coordinators. They pay more attention. So when I was on my visit and I saw him walk over and start chewing out the D linemen, I said, "What's going on here? Like, what are we doing?" And he was like, "Oh no, I'm the D line guy." I said, "That's what I'm talking about." Yes, man. He just was picking my brain. If he saw what he saw in me, it's big because he doesn't see that in everybody, So he saw something in just me walking around, and again, probably me and my dad messing around with like hand movement stuff on the sideline. He sees something in me, and I have to take full advantage of that. So maybe he saw the same thing in me. He saw Andres Peppers. Like there's just something, a light he sees. So I'm definitely going to take full advantage of that. And even with Boj, he's big on like family, like his morals and just how he like when he yells, it's not like you suck, right? He might say you suck, but I take that as like, oh, like he sees something in I'm not reaching my potential, right? So I just like the way that they're attacking that D line because it's huge. Like I want to say number 66 last season. That's who they want me to like kind of move towards because he was dropping back into coverage. He was playing nose tackle, and I was watching him against Middle Tennessee. I think was there.
Okay.
Just going back. Yeah, watching highlights. He was doing everything. His motor, incredible. That's one thing that I pride myself over is my motor. I just was like, don't stop, don't stop. Like as everybody gets tired, but when everybody gets tired, make sure you're less tired. And he looked like that guy. So that's a role that I'm looking forward to trying to step in. I think he just had like he's entering the draft.
All-American.
Yeah. So that's something I like having big shoes to fill. I like that pressure. I like that those eyes on me because it just pushes me to like higher levels. So, like I said, with being who he is with the D line on top of Boj and his expertise everywhere he's been, it was almost like a dream come true, So, extremely excited to have that one-on-one because I didn't even have that at Mesa. So, the fact that I have this coaching now and I did what I did last year kind of without a coach, everybody, my dad was like, yeah, you're going to do something like with all these guys on you. Yeah. So
did you ever figure out the eligibility part of it? And then when are you going to be arriving on campus?
So I want to say I start at the end of May, early June, that's like sometime in between there. I have to take like classes so that I can get on campus earlier, like actually become a student. So I told him like I don't mind taking like classes earlier, things like that. So I'm gonna do that to get on campus earlier and just become accustomed to like the way they do things so that when it does come time to like lock in, like game day countdown, I'm with everybody else. So eligibility wise, I know I have 2 guaranteed years left, and hopefully, depending on NCAA, if you guys see this, I get a third because of my COVID, and I wasn't playing college sports for 3 years. So I'm sure they'll look at that and fingers crossed, be like, hey, like let's just give it to them, like a grad year or something. But 2 for sure years, yeah. So 2 for sure years with the question mark third year. So
what's one main thing you're looking to improve on or work on before you get to campus that will help you on a football field?
Like I was saying earlier, my motor, like that's something that I will continue. I don't find it like satisfying. Like when these people see me out here, I'm running, like doing like the little stuff, like the suicides, the junior peewee stuff. But easily my motor, because that's what's going to set me aside from other people. It always has. So that conditioning and motor side of things, especially Coach Maddox, he like everybody has to be to the ball. And I love that because that's the difference between 5 extra yards and 4th and 1, right? So I just love the way they run their entire program. And I feel like I'll be a perfect fit, but easily that like my footwork is where it has to be, hands where it has to be, and that'll also come along. But that for sure, conditioning, because that's the main thing that separates guys who are in for 50 plays and in for 10 plays and in and out on the field. Like those, you look at, again, Aaron Donald, all these guys, they're robots. So I just have to come in on a different level conditioning wise. So yeah, I don't want to get ready there. I want to come in ready and then get better from there.
All right, man. This is a great interview, brother. Do you got some rapid fire non-football related questions for you?
Oh yeah, let's get it.
All right, man. What's your favorite food?
I like pasta. I like spaghetti, pasta. Yeah, easily.
And where does a San Diegan go to get some good pasta?
Little Italy for sure, but also don't sleep on like the little mom and pop pizza spots. You know, you can get you like a pizza with like pepperoni for $5 and like add like some grandma's spaghetti for like $3 extra, and that's
There
what I
you
do.
go.
Yeah.
Nice. How about your favorite movie or TV show?
Movie or TV show. Growing up, it was like Mike, a Space Jam for sure. Like the new one was okay, right? But MJ's MJ. That's just what I grew up on.
Okay.
Those are probably like my top ones. TV shows, I like I'm really into like series right now. Like as soon as quarantine went down, like The Last Dance, love that. Like before every season, watch it because what they did that year was like yeah, I watched that just to lock in and try to recreate that wherever I'm going, just that mentality. Yeah, I think those are like my top 3 right now.
Perfect, man. What about favorite musical artist group?
Favorite music group or like artist?
Either one, both.
Okay, artist, I'll probably go with growing up. Just hear me out with this part, right? Like old Kanye, not new Kanye. We can't really condemn what's going on with all that, you know.
Is that pre-post Kardashian?
Yes. I'm
Yeah,
talking.
okay. So I thought that was the line of demarcation. Okay, yeah.
We're talking like college graduation, just those kind of things. I really like Kendrick Lamar, J. Cole, Tupac, like lyrically sound like talking about stuff kind of stuff. So those are my pregame, like, yeah, that range.
Awesome. When you're not practicing playing football or any other sport, since you play all of them, what is a hobby or something you enjoy doing?
Family, easily. Like I am very dedicated to what I do. So any off time I have, I like spending with family. I have a small group of friends, so handful of friends just because less is more sometimes, and it's easier to stay focused and not have to deal with the outside noise. But I love baking and stuff like that too, just to like get like your sweets in, but just like your own like little kick and stuff like that. It's a good get you girls in the long run, right? Just cooking and stuff like that. So mom definitely pushed me to do things like that. A lot of outdoor stuff, like going to the zoo, all that good stuff. Yeah, I'm very outdoorsy, but I can also just chill. Very lazy, just depends. Like hard day of practice. Like I feel like I'm gonna have after state a lot of like just turn on the TV and just fall asleep. Like I don't. I've just been someone I heard. So but yeah, those are some hobbies. Yeah.
Great interview, man. Congratulations on your commitment.
Thank you.
We look forward to following you and covering you for the next couple of years, and really appreciate you giving us this time, brother.
Yeah, man. Looking forward to hearing from you guys. Just text me anytime. I love being a part of this. So anything I can do, just let me know. Any post game interviews, stuff like that. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. And this is my first one, so I'll never forget that. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, once you get on the team, we actually have to go through the media relations department to interviews. But yeah, hopefully we'll have a chance to chat with you when you're on the field. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully I'll see you guys at Snapdragon. Like I said, party in Snapdragon. So you guys have a good rest of your night. Thank you guys.
All right, have a good night. Bye.
All right, thank you guys.
We want to welcome Leo Kemp to the SDSU football podcast. How's your night going, man?
It's going great, pretty warm out here, not too cold. Happy to be on the podcast.
Great. We appreciate you taking the time. You're currently a senior at Paso Robles High School in Central California, recently committed to San Diego State. Tell us about your recruitment and how you ended up at San Diego State.
I went to a lot of camps. My junior year, I attended the San Diego State camp and I met a lot of the staff that is no longer here. But I was able to see a lot of the campus, and I checked out some brief facility, checked that out, and I got to get a feel for some of the players in campus. My recruitment was pretty light my whole senior year because I mean at the time they didn't really run a fullback until I got a text one day where they did decide. I was actually at the golf range and I got a text from Coach Deacon that they decided to take on a preferred walk-on fullback, and I was so excited to hear about that because at that moment I didn't have any set in concrete attention yet. Like I was planning on going to looking at some junior colleges, so I was really happy to hear that when Coach Deacon reached out to me.
Yeah, you mentioned the camps from last year. You mentioned the coaches aren't necessarily there, but like, do you think that got your name out there, your foot in the door? And was there anything you learned about San Diego State that you may not have known previously?
I'd never been to San Diego actually until that camp, and I actually love the city. I really, really, really like the practice fields and all the facility, and a lot of the players were running the camp, and I loved the atmosphere that they were creating. Like it was like really fun. It was intense, the workouts and a lot of competition. That's a lot what I got from like the camp.
Aztec Nation really is excited about the return of the fullback. I think that as it kind of went away from football in general, San Diego State kind of found it and it became a position of strength. And then it kind of went away, as you said, for the last couple of years. So everyone is curious to see what on earth is the new look fullback going to be under offensive coordinator Ryan Lindley. So what has the staff told you about the fullback position at San Diego State?
There's been a lot going on with new staff changes, and all the talks I have with the quarterback, it sounds like they expect from me, what they had from a lot of the good fullbacks in the past. They gave me film to watch on them, how they run through the hole, how they meet people. They don't just like they meet people at the hole, like they go through them. They don't catch people. It's a very physical position, which I love to hear. But like it's not just it's very versatile. It sounds like I'm catching in the backfield, but blocking is like a big aspect of it, and opening up holes. But ball carrying and catching the football, like that's like stuff in the flats. That's all things Coach Beal talked about with me.
In high school, you were a running back. I believe you saw 1,600 yards, 20 touchdowns. But what excites you, I guess, about that role of all the things that you just described?
Yeah, I mean, I was more of an H back in high school. I wasn't. We ran a wing T offense, so there was a lot of blocking out of the backfield for me as well. I'm really excited for, I think, the versatility of the position, and like the ability to go and do a lot more things than just being one dimensional, like how kind of my team felt. We did a lot of like downhill, same play stuff. I mean, it worked good. We from a smaller school, but I think I'm excited for the versatility of the position, all the things that I'd be able to do,
You mentioned the versatility of catching the ball, blocking. Last year when they had the coaching change mid-season, they went back to the fullback. Martin Blake kind of played that role, and he did catch some passes on some play actions rolling out of the backfield. So how are your receiving skills?
I think that's one of my better qualities is my receiving skills. I feel like high school football, we didn't have the opportunity all the time to really get the ball in the air. So I don't have a whole lot of film to show for it, but we have our local quarterback coach like that does a lot of the quarterback coaching on the Central Coast. I'll go do like wideout work for them and stuff, work on my hands. But my dad, he'll play quarterback for me while I do like footwork drills, and we'll catch balls after like running out of it. My hands are some of my better qualities ever since I was younger.
Yeah, we also talked about that legacy that San Diego State had with great fullbacks, prior to the last like 3-4 years. Did that factor into your decision to becoming an Aztec, knowing that they have that legacy and you can keep that tradition going?
Yeah, like totally, absolutely. Like seeing some of the great names. I mean, when I talked to Coach Lindley on the phone, he gave me 3 specific names to watch film on, and this is like how we want you to play the game. And some of the names were like Chad Young, Nick Bodden, and like Dakota Gordon. Like those were like three names that he told me to watch film on, and I watched their film, and I just absolutely loved like the style of play, of like running downhill, running through people, bringing the hit. Like, I really, really, really enjoyed that, and seeing that's what like they want me to be.
I think Nick
I think
Bawden is still in the NFL right now, right, Paul? Yeah.
I believe so. Yeah, I believe so. Yep. But I think Andre that Leo has just made all of the fan base happy. Those three names, people loved all three of them. I mean, I still feel so horrible for that Boise State guy in 2012 that Chad Young blew up on that late hit after they had sealed the win up in Boise. I mean, I that guy's got to have nightmares about that shot. So it's great to hear, man, that you're plugged into that. But this year, there's obviously a whole new offensive staff, as you mentioned. In that short time that you've had the opportunity to talk with all of them and build those relationships, I mean, what could you tell us about Coach Beal?
I've had like smaller, like Coach Beal's been on the staff like for a very short amount of time, but like the time I have had with him, it's always been really good talks. I mean, he reached out to me very, very soon after he was hired, talked to me, and I loved his demeanor. He came at me with very intent, like an intensity of what he wants out of a fullback, and like what he sees in me, and all this. And like I really appreciate that with some of the limited time he has, because he has a whole RB room himself that he's also learning. And for him to make the time to come and like recruit me, it meant a lot, to have that going on. So that's what I really appreciated.
Yeah, no question. And I mean, what does that do for you? I mean, as somebody who's coming as a walk-on to be able to have, the coach who just got hired be able to give you that full time and to give you that idea of like your trajectory at San Diego State.
It meant a lot, like from the limited time, because because they the other running backs coach before him also reached out to me, and then I was getting on the same road. And then when he left to the Rams, Coach Beal was hired, and that like I looked Coach Beal up, and I at Montana, and I really liked some of his stuff, and I was really excited to try and talk to him, and I didn't really know when I was going to get in contact with him. And when he reached out to me, it made me like super excited, super excited, and how his demeanor with me, and what we talked about.
Now, your bio and the things that we saw is you're a top 8 wrestler in the state.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, let's talk wrestling, man. What weight? I mean, we have one person, Dennis. I know you'll be listening. Huge wrestling guy. So this is the moment in time that Dennis Ryan has been waiting for to talk wrestling on the football podcast. So tell us about your wrestling prowess.
So wrestling's always been a big thing to me. Wrestling, my senior year was my biggest football season. I was leaned on a lot more this year than any other year, and I had to take a lot into consideration. And I didn't wrestle my senior year, but I wrestled every year of elementary school through middle school through up to my junior year. And I really didn't really grow with wrestling until my freshman year, until I kind of stopped getting my butt kicked like I did in middle school. And then I really embraced it my freshman year. I wrestled varsity. And then my junior season, I won CIF. I won my CIF, and then I went on to masters, and I placed there, and then I went to state, and I had a placed high there. And then going into my senior season, I was ranked almost top 5, but I topped out at 8. And then I just decided to focus on my football training, because I had a lot of work to put in the weight room and speed and conditioning, and I thought that'd be the best option for me. And it hurt. I was really, 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 it was a decision me and my family made. But man, wrestling was always a big part of my life. It helped me develop as an athlete, physically, but just mentally, man. There's nothing like that wrestling room does to you, and I really embraced that in high school.
Tell me more about that. What is it that I mean, because people can see parallels, right? I mean, between a fullback and also, but so what is that mentality that you just described?
Just battle, it's like you have no excuses. You get put on your back. You can't blame your coach. You can't blame your teammate. That's on you. And wrestling is just toughness. It's like who's going to break and who's not going to break, it's just nothing like it. It's like fighting, but it's just so technical, but it's like an art form. Like I don't know how to say it. Like the hours you put in, like how much, man, I hate wrestling practice, but I love like competing, and that's what it's all about.
You mentioned when you came to this camp last summer, that was your first time ever in San Diego. Have you been back since then?
Yeah, I have been. I went on a visit where Coach Deacon showed me around. Coach Deacon and Coach Nick showed me around everywhere, and I was able to go put on a jersey, and it was super cool. I walked around the campus. It was my first time seeing Fowler Athletic Center. Yeah, I was able to meet Coach Lindley, Coach Hoke. I was there wasn't a running back coach actually when I went there at the time, so I didn't have a running coach to meet. But it was a great experience, and I loved watching the players compete. I went to the spring ball game as well. I love it down there.
That Snapdragon Stadium it's obviously new. It's a big draw. It's a big sell that they hope for recruiting. Having the spring game there for the first time is definitely a great experience. When do you get to campus? Are you coming in during the summer? What's the logistics of that?
So this Tuesday, as in tomorrow, we have like a incoming player meeting, like class of 23, like me, and we're gonna go over all that stuff. Okay. I'm assuming I'm leaving pretty early into the summer to get my feet in the ground and get to training, but I can't tell you an exact date because I'll learn that tomorrow night.
So football wise, as we sit here in the end of April, what's one thing you're looking to work on before you come to campus, football wise, or just in general wise, that you're focused on over the next 40 days or so?
Just speed, strength, and conditioning. I have a trainer that I see 3 to 4 times a week. I drive 45 minutes to go see him. He's in San Luis, about 45 minutes away from me. He was Cal Poly's leading rusher career. He had over, man, I don't remember his exact stats, but Joe Prothrow, he's an animal, and he helps me a lot with my speed and conditioning. Completely transformed my game, and I see him a lot for my footwork. And I put an entire weight room into my garage over COVID when there wasn't any gyms open. So me and my family, we just made the investment, and I got everything in there that I'll ever need. So I train there typically before school.
You've mentioned Coach Deacon a few times. I believe you said Central Coast. So he's the area recruiter for your area, correct?
Yeah.
What is he like on the recruiting trail?
I had a very brief call with him like late into my junior season, but it just wasn't like very serious because they weren't looking for a player like me at the time. They weren't looking for a fullback type. So it wasn't really that deep. But the second that they're bringing one on, he was the first one that texted me. Him, Coach Lindley, Coach Nick, and Bernade, like they were all texting me like right at the same time when they're all in a meeting texting me. So that's how it was. But meeting him, he did the campus tour with me and the facility tour. He was with me the whole time, and I just loved him. It was a great experience.
He's a special teams coordinator, obviously. Has he talked to you about getting on the special teams units?
Absolutely. And he was like telling me like that's totally. He totally wants me on that, and I'm excited to have interest there. Like I'd love to.
It's great, man. Great job on this interview. Last couple of questions are some rapid fire questions for you. Ready to go?
Okay, let's do it.
All right. What's your favorite food?
Anything seafood. I love seafood.
And where does one get great seafood in the Central Coast?
I'll go up to Morro Bay. They'll have some good fresh fish and crab. I love to go to the Cracked Crab. That's like my place. I love to go when it's a little pricey, but it's a special occasion. I love the Cracked Crab.
There you go. Well, coming to San Diego, I think, you have some options. What's your favorite movie or TV show?
Ever since I was young, Cars. Cars is probably my favorite movie. Cars 1 specifically. Ever since I was a kid, I always loved that movie. And Breaking Bad's probably one of my favorite TV shows.
Andre, I think this is the official moment that we're old. The athletes that are going to San Diego State, their favorite movie is Cars. Like there's no turning back, man. We can't hide it from it. Like that's just wow. Cars and Breaking Bad, though, I will say that has to that's got all of your bases covered. You know what I mean?
Well, everything. It covers everything.
There, any age could hang out with you and do that's great. What's your favorite musical artist or group?
I'd probably say Zach Bryan. I'm a big country music fan.
There you go. There you go. And where did the love for country music develop for you?
No, I mean, I always grew up in the country. I lived on ranches my whole life. I showed cattle my whole life. But yeah, it's just always like I love all types of music genres, but country music's definitely my roots.
Okay, so like I feel like we can bond because my wife bought 4 chickens 2 weeks ago. So
I
that's
got
the same as
7 behind me right now.
What did you do with cattle?
I showed them in FFA and 4-H for a long, long time.
Andre, do you know what that is?
I have no idea.
Okay, so yeah, explain that. I don't know what you just said.
Okay, so it sounds worse than it is, but like imagine you're raising an animal for about a year. You're feeding it, walking it, you're training how to like get it to walk. So a judge it's a whole thing, and then you sell it on the auction block, and then it gets slaughtered. And then you that's how I got my money when I was younger and was able to buy my truck. So
yeah,
something new every day.
No, completely. I mean, when how old does one begin to start showing cattle?
I started when I was 13.
I mean, how does that work? I have a 12-year-old. He has never asked me for a cattle to go show. I mean, how does one get into this? Is this a family thing? Is this just part of the community?
It's it's for the fair. It's like you get your county fair once a year, and then you show and then sell your animal. And yeah, I mean, I made $13,000 off an animal one year. Like I did really good, and I got $13,000 on an animal I paid $3,000 for. So
I'm in the wrong business.
I would think it's also part. I would think it's also part of that Central California.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
You're not old enough for this, but like when I think of Paso Robles, I think of wineries. Is that really
100% everywhere?
Okay,
that's it. I mean, that's all we are. That's all we're known for.
That's awesome. No, it sounds like you should hit up the Del Mar Fair this summer.
Yeah,
if you haven't been out there, a lot very similar vibe. So, who's your favorite professional athlete?
And I was thinking about this one. Probably I really like Christian McCaffrey or like Mike Trout. I really, really like those two. I couldn't really decide, because I'm not even an Angels fan. I just like Mike Trout a lot, but I love how hard Christian McCaffrey works. All the stuff. I like follow him a lot.
Yeah, no, I think you may have just summed up all Angels fans.
Okay.
Like no one's really a fan of the Angels. They just really like Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani. Like that's kind of I think that's standard for just So I mean, you said you like their versatility. What are some other aspects more like particularly about them that you gravitate and kind of want to, I don't know, steal from them a little bit?
I think they work hard, but they're also just great people. Like seeing all the stuff they do, like behind football scenes or baseball scenes, but like they just work hard. You can just tell like that somebody works hard. But I really like them just as persons, like just how they are as people, and then how successful they are as athletes. They got everything.
Yeah.
One name you might hear a lot, and I think you might have already. I saw a tweet related is Lorenzo Neal. He was a fullback for the Chargers when they were in San Diego, and he blocked for LaDainian Tomlinson, who was, broke the record for most touchdowns by rushing back. Like Lorenzo Neal, I think is one of the most popular Chargers players among fans, just because of his blocking. Like he was just a beast. Like he blocked like nobody got around him. And I think that's part of San Diego's culture with fullbacks goes far, not just San Diego State fullbacks, but even Lorenzo Neal. So it's a name to keep in mind.
Okay,
that's
cool.
No, that's a great call. That's a great call, Andre. I think you're absolutely right with that. And talk about a good person off the field as well. I'm excited about this one. Okay, so you show animals, but that's not a hobby because you made 10 grand on one. Yeah, so that doesn't.
I've made a lot more than that too, but
just that was just on one.
That was just 1 year. That was just 1 year.
One. Oh my goodness. What are some other hobbies, things you enjoy doing? When you're not going half an hour to train and do those things.
Number one, easy without a doubt, is golf. Man, I love golf.
We have a lot of good golf courses here.
Yeah, that's what I'm really excited about. I'm on our varsity team right now for the high school. That's my other sport I'm doing right now. And I'm not that good, but I shot a 97 today. It was okay, but I just love going out with my friends and all of our courses we have around here, and I just have a lot of fun on the course.
Sounds incredible, man. Leo, thank you so much for your time.
Of course.
Great interview, man. Welcome to San Diego, and we look forward over the next few years to getting to cover you. And unfortunately, San Diego State does not allow us to talk to freshmen, so maybe in 2 or 3 years we'll get another chance to do this, man.
Sounds great. Yeah, absolutely.
Have a good night, man.
All right, thank you guys. You have a great one.
All right, Paul, that was our interviews with 2 PWO commits in the last couple of weeks for San Diego State for this upcoming season. First, starting with Jaliel, what were your thoughts about our conversation with him?
Well, I'm not sure how you could have much of a better conversation. I thought he absolutely killed it. Generally speaking, and just talking about him on the field, I think he's exactly the kind of kid that San Diego State needs to succeed in. Seems to be a tremendous athlete. I mean, the videos of him, running at state and doing sprints. I mean, the kid can move for, 280 pounds. Guys who are really good football players who may be a little bit shorter, a little bit less athletic, who just don't fit that exact frame. San Diego State has thrived with those kind of guys, but I think that you can also like the idea of trying to find a way to, just coach up athleticism and what that can mean. And, I have no idea what a ceiling like this would be, except the fact that his dad played D1. And so I think, the great bloodlines are there. I think that he sounds like a lotto ticket for San Diego State. I don't know what else the way to say it. Like a local kid who's going to continue to keep local kids interested in the program, somebody who understands and takes being a San Diegan with pride. I mean, you get a 6'3", 280-pound guy who can move. If you can turn him into something and he can reach that potential, I think it's an absolute steal that San Diego State was able to get him on campus.
He's got that Fresno State game, circled on the calendar.
Right.
Because of his dad and also because of his Mesa teammate, Ezra Christensen, who, left San Diego State at the altar, per se, by choosing Fresno State a couple months ago. But it seems like a lot of the guys we have spoken to on this podcast for this new class have like this wild, unorthodox story. And I think his is
good point.
His fits that too. I mean, baseball scholarship out of high school, play 1 year or not even a year, COVID, come back, give up baseball, and then go to JUCO for football. And now you have a PW offer at a D1. That's a pretty wild story in itself as well. And I like how, he was talking about how his body pretty much made his decision for him, how he was putting on weight and filling out and didn't really have a baseball body anymore, had a football body. So I've never heard anybody necessarily put it that way, but it makes a ton of sense. We talked endlessly about the defensive line for this upcoming year, how many guys they've got there, new guys particularly, that are all going to be vying. And there's, 9 or 10 guys in the depth chart that even Coach Maddox told us that could play, could see snaps. And, Jaliel will add on to that list, hopefully, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think he also gave great insight into the kind of recruiter that Brady Hoke is, how quickly he was able to just touch on all the right things that Jaliel wanted to hear on his visit. And I think those interpersonal skills don't always come across in a press conference. But it's just another great thing of what makes him such a good recruiter. For a young guy to understand the opportunity that he has to be coached by those people, I think is good because I think it is a tremendous opportunity. And I think I'm just really curious how good of an athlete he is. And I just say that because, I mean, having a baseball scholarship is no small feat, you know what I mean? To be able to have the hand-eye coordination and how that plays and all of that.
And he was a basketball player too.
And he was a basketball player, right? And and talking about playing Noah Tumblin in basketball after playing him in football and all of those things. And so I think like I think it's a really good thing that they were able to get him. And like you said, it just kind of came out of nowhere. You know what I mean? It's just like, okay, here's this preferred walk on, and people were suggesting that he go back, which I don't even understand. It doesn't make any sense to me how he could go back. If he only has 2 years left, but maybe a third, and how that stuff would work. But to have more of that opportunity at Mesa, but then to want to get on campus and start that D1 dream, I think is really good. And quite frankly, I think these kind of guys going and competing, I think it really does a lot to the players who are scholarship guys. I mean, I think if the work that Jaliel is committed to, if that translates to when he's on the Mesa and he really sticks to it, and then you get a guy, like Joey Hall, who we talked to, exact kind of same path, and you start seeing the work that those guys put into it, it just makes all of the guys who are ahead of them have to work like that too. And then you start adding into the fact that, these are some big boys. There's some grown men. State's not going to lack for size on the defensive line. Now, if they're going to lack for skill, that remains to be seen. But it's not going to be for a lack of size, and as evidenced by the fact that here's a 6'3", 280-pound guy who, if it was today, you wouldn't even expect him to get on the field. But if he's able to work his way into that rotation where he gets 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 15 snaps, and then who knows, it's a pretty exciting place. And he, as he said, is betting on himself, and he expects the preferred walk-on thing is going to be temporary, and that he's going to be the next in a long line of people. And it's really had a San Diego flavor of late, who have been able to go from preferred walk-ons to scholarship athletes.
You mentioned Jonah Tavai, someone the coaches wanted him to kind of watch film on, and about his versatility, being able to play inside, outside, nose tackle, 3 technique, drop back into coverage. Those are ways you get on the field, by showing your versatility. And that's what he can use to differentiate himself from other guys he's battling against for playing time. He's obviously he mentioned some of the best defensive linemen in NFL. Aaron Donald, obviously maybe the best defensive tackle ever.
I was going to say he's a pretty nice place to start.
And this is coming from a Warren Sapp guy.
No, I know.
I would never. If you asked me 15 years ago if I would admit that another defensive tackle was better than Warren Sapp, I would have told you there was no way. But I will go on the record and say Aaron Donald is better than Warren Sapp. It's close, wow. But Aaron Donald is just a different beast. But Khalil Mack, Aiden Hutchinson, who are more edge guys who can do a lot. They're not just guys who rush off the edge and can't play against a run or can't drop back. Those guys are versatile, and so great guys to emulate your game after.
I'm always amazed at the self-confidence and the belief these athletes have in themselves. And so it's always a little bit, you kind of have to start there. And obviously it is a wait and see. And, when you have 6 games of college football in the last, 3 years that he's been able to do, there's going to be rust, and there's going to be all those things, and getting adjusted to it. He's got a shot. I mean, that's just it. That's the way San Diego State is. And there has definitely been junior college defensive linemen who have come into the program, and they stick around for just a little bit, and they're off doing something else. But there's also been guys who have stuck and who are really clawing into the rotation, and I think Jaliel could be that guy, and he certainly has the bloodlines for it, and like I said, it's the kind of diamond in the rough kind of guy that San Diego State should be good at trying to find, because like I said, I think it's a lottery ticket that could pay off big for them.
Moving on to Leo Kemp, the fullback is back. We talked about it last episode that the fullback is back in the depth chart, and now we've got a preferred walk-on that's coming in specifically for that role from Paso Robles High School in Central California. What do you think about Leo?
Well, I mean, I think that if he's not rooming with Briley Barron, I think
Yeah.
there's a there's something wrong. I mean, man, talk about. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm a city guy, and so anything country just seems like a foreign country to me. But
Yeah.
just the variety that these kids, the lives that these kids lead, man, I find so fascinating. But I mean, starting first just with the fullback position, I mean, I think Coach Lindley talked about his offense. He wants his offense to be the aggressor. He wants his offense to dictate the pace. He wants his offense to make the defense react to what they're doing. There's a lot of things that could mean. Obviously, you look at like Mike Leach, who he obviously coached under, and they did that, but they did that by spreading out. They did that by making the defense cover every square inch of the field, tempo, things of that nature. And with San Diego State, I think you could argue that they have lost that ability to take it to the defense ever since they lost the fullback. I think that was their way of forcing teams to play to their style, and that was their identity as far as their physicality. And I think in losing the fullback position, they lost some of that Aztec physicality. I don't know. I mean, I don't expect it in any way to be featured like it used to be featured back in the day. But nonetheless, to have that in your repertoire to allow, your back to actually have a few different ways to cut, to have the opportunity to not have your what's the right phrase? To not have to block everything perfectly, right? You can miss and you have somebody there to clean it up. Just all of those components to it. I think it's a welcome sign that San Diego State's going back to that position, and we'll get that into their offense.
Yeah, I asked him about his receiving skills because I think that's going to come into play a lot as well, maybe more than the fullback. It did for the fullback during the heyday, during the Chad Young and the Nick Bodden days, because I think that's what Ryan Lindley wants to do is at times be able to line up and then split them out, motion them out, and have them have matchups. And you want your fullback to be able to sometimes split out and line up against the linebacker and be able to beat them. So I think that skill is going to be utilized. But the whole wrestling thing, I think, is fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
That's not something you hear about a lot from what we talked to anyway. But top 8 in the state, that's pretty damn good. That's no joke. Who knows if he pursued wrestling, where that would take him compared to where football has taken him. So I think that's interesting. But his athleticism is something. When we were researching for this interview, I was looking up, his workout tapes that he had posted himself. And he's doing a lot of athletic stuff in terms of one-legged jumping and side-to-side action with cones, things I haven't necessarily seen a lot of people do. And he talked about how he has a trainer that's about 30 minutes away that he works with on conditioning and strength. And he's an athletic guy. He's not just this big fullback that's going to go up and block guys. I mean, he did rush for 1,600 yards in a senior year. So he's got some speed. He's got some agility that could be utilized as well in all the facets of a fullback. It's not just the blocking side.
Yeah, I think that's there, and you mentioned just the hands that they want their fullback to utilize. Excuse me. And I thought Nick Gardenera, who was listed as first, I think we saw that in pass catching drills during practice and things like that, showing the ability to catch the ball. And I think the athleticism really comes into play by just, like you said, moving them around, but even moving them around and still having them block, but just giving the defense another look that makes the same kind of play just appear different because, you have him set up as more of an H-back as opposed to a fullback, and, all those kind of things. And so I think it's there. I think it's important and great that the staff is tapping into the legacy of the former fullbacks, and that they're saying, listen, this is the kind of guys we want you to be. And I think that they're trying to reestablish that identity of being the toughest team on the field. And I think they lost that. I just don't know what else to be able to say. Like, I think they lost that part of it offensively. I think they kept it defensively. They're still going to run the football. For a long time, their fullbacks were their primary pass blocking person as well. And I could very easily see that kind of component into it, where it's like, okay, we're gonna send 4 guys out, and we're gonna make sure that our quarterback is protected, and so it's really an interesting thing to be able to see, like, how much they depend on it. It can make an offensive line that might not be fantastic. I think it can make it look a lot better because like I said, it can clean up mistakes and stuff like that. And as far as Leo's concerned, I obviously, like all of these kids that we interview, it's so remarkable how hard they work, and it's so remarkable the time that they put into it, and not just the time practicing, but the schedule around the practice that they have to keep in order to be able to continue to do that every day, and the discipline of that, I think, is just commendable. And, it's absolutely a minimum for this level, but I don't think it should be overlooked. There's a lot of, there's a lot of negativity surrounding young people, and the fact that somebody would drive, an hour a day to be able to work out, to be able to go after this thing that he wants at such a young age is like I said, it's commendable. It's great. And I don't think you should lose sight of it just because every single person who's a D1 athlete, who's a D2 athlete, who's a D3 athlete is doing the same thing. It's still such a small segment of the population, and it makes them special. And so I think that as far as, what we do in our coverage for San Diego State, this is what we geek on. We geek on the opportunity to allow people to get to know somebody who may otherwise not get known until, they have some devastating block that, makes the highlight reels. And then all of a sudden, the media spotlight gets on them. And so just the opportunity to do that right away. I mean, what did you make of him showing cattle?
and the amount of money he made.
Come on. I'm like, what is my problem?
For us, I mean, for us growing up in the suburbs and in the city life, that's just stuff that's foreign to us, but it's fascinating stuff. And it's, Central California, that's normal. It shows, all the creative ways that you can, as a high school student, you can make money, you can add to your community, things like that. That's pretty cool.
No, bro. And then we have to talk about it. He mentioned Cars is his favorite movie.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this. 2006 is when it came out. So it's not even yeah. I think I mean, wow. I don't know that I've ever, what it is I've had people in my life who say, name a movie that you love, and they name one of those Disney films, and you're like, grow up, give me a break. What do you mean that's one of your favorite movies? Yeah, right. It felt appropriate when he said it. I don't know how else to say it. It didn't feel like he was, felt like that was in his wheelhouse. And I don't know, man. I think
it's funny. I know Paso Robles just because that it's wine country.
Yeah.
And that's another I by the time I asked the question, I obviously started it with "You're not old enough," but part of me wanted to be like, "Oh, so what's the best winery?"
Yeah, that's right. It's another old question.
I'm okay, wait. You have to realize we're talking to a high school senior,
right?
18. We forget that sometimes when we're talking
completely.
these guys who are
Completely.
on the team or about to be on the team. It's funny that way. But
Absolutely.
they speak the way they speak and the way they are articulate. You would never think that these guys are as young as they are, but that's a testament to them and how they're raised and educated. And
No, I agree, and I really enjoyed obviously speaking with both of them, and I think that they are in San Diego State is, as we've talked about every podcast. I mean, you kind of can't talk about it. It is what's going on. There's this shift that's taking place, and it's not just in NIL. It's a new conference. It's all of those pieces, and it's not a foregone conclusion that when they make that change, that the identity of what's made them good for so long is going to remain. Like it's not that it's easy to say, oh well, just keep recruiting the same guys that you're recruiting. Well, maybe it's like what we talked about with Coach Dutcher at the celebration, and he said like, well, I don't know that our recruiting can get any better. We were just in a national championship game. He said, yeah, we're going to get into more doors, but are they the right doors? And I think San Diego State is at that same place. And so the question becomes, how do they keep that, lunch pail workmanlike mentality, the us against the world kind of posture, when you have a brand new stadium that is slowly going to be surrounded by, one of the best educational technology centers like on the West Coast. You know what I mean? Like that's the goal of it. How do you keep that same kind? I mean, because it's not us against them. You kind of become them. You know what I mean? And if they do in fact switch conferences, I mean, how do you go and say, well, we don't get respect, and we got to play with this edge because we're the underdog? Well, no, you're not the underdog because you're in the best conference on the West Coast. How do you when you have guys who are now 4-star recruits and they're interested in you, and 5-star recruits, they're interested in you because of all these things that you name? How do you keep that same edge that has made them so competitive and so good? Because the losing it means that you're having to like out USC or having to out Oklahoma. Like it's really difficult to beat them at their own game, and that's why San Diego State's been so competitive, is because they've been able to do that. And I cannot think of a better source of that than preferred walk-ons like we got to talk to right now. If you don't have to guess. I mean, there's going to be a scout team rep, and they're gonna and Leo is going to line up in a scout team rep early in his career, and he's going to make somebody look stupid because he's going hard and the other person took the play off, and that guy who took the play off will never do it again, and he's going to be better, and that lunch pail mentality is going to stay rooted in the program if these guys are successful. And so I think that it shouldn't be underestimated their importance in this time, even though when you look at the factors of the team, you might list them like number 75, but I think they play a huge role, and I think the coaching staff does as well, as evidenced by the fact of the attention that they're giving to them. They know that these are the guys that make the culture of the team. Because again, if you have a Mekhi Shaw who comes in and he works his butt off and he becomes a really good football player as a preferred walk-on and earns a scholarship, you know that one, your player development works as a program, and two, you give a working model of the minimum effort that needs to be there for anybody else who's around. And so I think these guys can do a huge favor to San Diego State by being, really good at what they do and finding success on the Mesa.
You would think, as position wise, that Leo has an opportunity to be on the field earlier. But obviously Jaliel is looking forward to showing what he can do and getting on the field himself. So we'll see once those guys get on the field and fall camp where they end up on the depth chart. Before we get out of here, we are in the middle of the transfer portal season. San Diego State has been fairly quiet with the incoming transfers. Obviously, last episode we talked about the outgoing. In addition to the guys we mentioned, Gus McGee, tight end, announced he was entering the portal. And so that's another guy. He was fourth on the depth chart at the tight end positions. From what I've heard, it's kind of personal related, family related for him, going back to his hometown on the East Coast. So we wish him the best and opportunity he can find. But it's been awfully quiet on the incoming side. I think a lot of Aztec Nation is getting a little restless about that, given that there's now 8 scholarships potentially open for this upcoming season. So we'll see where they go. A few guys that they've made offers to have committed elsewhere. A couple new guys. Colorado, I don't know what's going on at Colorado, but they had 18 guys enter the portal today after their spring game, which is that is a lot. I think I saw someone tweet that they have 25 scholarship players from last year's team on this year's roster. That's ridiculous. That's crazy. I know Dion came in and he made that speech on day one about how some of y'all aren't going to cut it and you're going to get replaced or something like. I'm paraphrasing, but it felt we had that. And, a lot of guys used the publicity of Colorado and played in the spring game on ESPN and showed out. And, now they're looking for better opportunities for themselves. And so you can't fault the player for doing what's best for them when the team is also looking to do what's best for them. But just getting back to San Diego State, we hopefully we'll hear some stuff in the coming days, in the coming weeks, because they've got some spots to fill.
I agree, and I think everybody in the world is obviously watching Colorado. I mean, do you see the pictures between the spring game last year and the spring game this year, and obviously it being on ESPN? But I mean, I think that's a perfect case study, because clearly Deion Sanders is trying to basically be what Nick Saban did at Alabama, but he wants to do it like right away, where as opposed to building it, over time. And so it'll be interesting to see if you can pull that off, because I don't know, it's an interesting dynamic, because were all the players who were at Colorado, were they so much worse than the players that he's bringing in, that it was just super obvious that they didn't have any talent and they needed to go? But regardless, I mean, the idea that you play for Colorado, I don't know how you can possibly say that. I don't know how you could go in there and say, listen, what this is about the University of Colorado. Like, no, it's not. It's about winning, and it's about getting to championships, and that's it. It's about getting credit for it. It's about, all of those kinds of things. And again, that can win. There's no doubt about it. But it's just a different approach than I think San Diego State is going to be able to do. And in some regards, I think that it might really benefit State, because Colorado used to be one of the schools that they would recruit closely with.
Yeah.
And I think they're maybe trying to get a little bit of a different kind of kid now, and so that could bode well. But yeah, I think, as you say, the transfer portal, it'll be really interesting to see what comes out of it. I think, as you said last time we talked, 1,400 kids, and trying to shuffle through all of those guys. I think that the two pieces of this for San Diego State is, number one, the portal hasn't closed, and
Right.
so it's difficult and more names get added all the time. So it's difficult, I think, to go and fully say, okay, here's what we're going to do, when you might have other guys that are going to pop, that are going to come out. I think the other part of it is there's this June 30th deadline for San Diego State to be able to tell the Mountain West that they're switching conferences. And, at the basketball event, I mean, we both looked at each other like, what did the president just say? And I think like everybody was just kind of stunned. I think that's the most public, not that she hasn't done things close like that before, but proclamation almost that this is happening. What does that mean for this whole conversation? If let's say May 15th, they go and they say they make this announcement that it's happening June 1st, and they make it that's happening because they obviously, you'd want them to be there for at least the second conditioning session in July, and lots of guys show up at that time. So I think that in some regards, kind of slow playing it a little bit, unless there's somebody that you just absolutely love, might make sense because the kind of athlete that you're going to recruit. Because I mean, you mentioned Colorado guys. I mean, that's a perfect example. Why on earth wouldn't a guy from Colorado love the opportunity to transfer to San Diego State and get to play them in 2024? Like that would be a dream. I mean, that for a competitor, that would be like a dream come true. So we'll see. We'll see if some of those guys get that opportunity. But really enjoyed talking to these two kids tonight.
Yeah, just one last thing on the recruiting thing. Some D1 schools are still going through spring. They have their spring game coming up. So to go to your point, there are other guys that may be entering the portal that have yet to enter the portal. And you want to hold out a couple scholarships for guys that pop up that you're not expecting. But I think with the amount of scholarships that they have open right now, you still have to go hard after some of the kids that you like that are in the portal. Because you can't get stuck holding the bag, once everybody's through the portal to say, okay, well, we didn't get anyone we wanted and we've got these scholarships open, right? You kind of have to be mindful of there could be guys entering next week, but you also gotta still go after the guys that you like now because it's an unknown in the future instead of a known now. So
no, I agree. Let me ask you this question on that because it gave me a thought. So would you say that State having 8 scholarships is a lot or a little relative to like other teams?
It's probably average.
Okay, so then that would put how many available scholarships out there for potential transfers?
What do you mean? Ask that again.
Is that like 8? There's like 800?
Oh yeah,
700?
Yeah,
spots open, and there's double that in the transfer portal. And I think that's another aspect of this is I'm really curious to see how many guys end up going to junior colleges, and if they're able to kind of restock their system that way. I mean, we talked with Joseph Hall's coach, and he talking about just driving around, and you're just always kind of on the lookout for guys who with size that you can bring onto the team from a junior college perspective. But I think that's the other part of it is I think that if there legitimately are 700 plus kids who, when the musical chair stops, are not going to have a seat on the D1 bus anymore. Gosh, how many metaphors can I mix up there? That State should have the ability to bring somebody in. Is my point that they're not gonna there's gonna be options for them. So, but as you say, I mean, it seems like every day there's somebody going out and saying, "I was offered by San Diego State. I was offered by San Diego State. I was offered by San Diego State." I think even the message boards have gotten tired of talking about all the kids that the coaches are following because there's just so many. It's nuts.
Maybe the transfer portal wasn't really a thing 10, 15 years ago before social media, but like, how did people keep up with all this? Who got offers and what's and all like that? Just crazy. I don't even want to think about that.
No.
Anyway, maybe caveat: by the time this episode comes out, San Diego State has signed multiple transfers.
We started. It's completely our fault. We did that.
Yeah, but that's a good thing. That would be a good thing.
Yeah, get some players that they want. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for us. Hopefully you enjoyed getting to know 2 of the newest Aztecs who will be on the fall roster. As always, we appreciate you guys listening, liking, sharing, following the podcast on several platforms. Keep doing it because we appreciate it. And I think the more people that tune in, I think the more people that will enjoy it. So thank you again, and we'll talk to you guys next time. You are listening to the SDSU Football Podcast, presented by the East Village Times, with your hosts Andre Hagverdian and Paul Garrison.